What time is it?
Tea time!
Oh, yeah!
And welcome back to Tea Time. It's 2017. I know I've been a little bit behind on the episodes, hasn't posted in a while, but as some close to me know and seen on my Twitter and whatnot, had a bit of stuff to take care of. My new baby girl's here and healthy, born on 12/15/16, as well as I had to move my family, and just a bunch of things kind of got in the way. That's why you haven't seen me post since September. So I apologize for that. But I'm back now. I'm raring to go. It's 2017. Let's get to it. But before we move on to what's going on currently, let's, reflect a little bit on what happened this past 2016. You had the Olympics with Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps and Ashton Eaton all stake their claim as legendary Olympic athletes. You had the Ryan Lochte story of, when imbeciles take over. You had the Baylor incident and whatnot that was kind of a black mark to start the college season before it even got off anywhere. We currently we had some pretty good champions this past 2016. Peyton Manning rides off into the sunset with a Super Bowl victory with the Broncos. Then you have LeBron James coming back home and bringing a title to Cleveland in the NBA, beating the Warriors, who had gone 73-9, who, Mark no one ever thought would be beat that the Bulls had, but they couldn't finish the business. They were up 3-1 and then got beat. And then the curse is broken. The Cubbies, they took care of business. They were down 3-1 and they beat the Cleveland Indians. No one thought they could break the curse this year. I mean, they looked good, but they're still very young. But they were able to pull it out. I didn't pick them, obviously. If you've heard the podcast, I was going with the Giants just because you got to go with that veteran presence every other year. I mean, there's no reason to pick against them at the moment, but the Cubs pulled through. They beat them, beat the Dodgers, and then beat the surprise Indians in the World Series, and now we have that curse broken. But outside of that, that's pretty much, the main highlights of this past year in sports. There's a few other things, but there's just too much to get into for 2016. Can't cover everything, of course. But let's get started a little bit here with the NFL. The playoffs are set. We have our playoff teams. I'm going to make some picks for the upcoming games and all that, and give you who I think might be in the Super Bowl this year. It's definitely changed over the last few weeks. I mean, with the huge injury to Derek Carr, that really changes a lot. I thought the Raiders, even though I'm a Raiders fan, I thought the Raiders actually had a really good shot. And what they look like without David Carr is not the best. It doesn't look great for them right now, unfortunately. And they had such a promising opportunity. But who knows? They could pull something out and maybe do what the Broncos did this last season, where the defense kind of carried Peyton Manning to the Super Bowl. And there's no reason to think that maybe that can't happen with them. But in the end, we have the AFC, and the NFC. And it's going to be interesting because you have some very experienced quarterbacks and you have some very non-experienced quarterbacks that are all playing off. And to go to the first game I'm going to pick, it's Raiders at Texans. 12-4 Raiders being a wild card, which really stinks for them. They couldn't get the win over the Broncos at the end of the year. Broncos not making the playoffs. They're able to keep the Raiders from a bye week, which could have probably really helped them out and get prepared because Connor Cook's going to be their starting quarterback. But I'm still taking Raiders over Texans. I don't believe in the Texans. I don't believe in Brock Osweiler. Raiders beat them once already. If they can get the run game going, the defense can get some stops. I think there's no reason to believe that the Raiders can't beat the Texans. And then in the second game, it's Dolphins versus Steelers. I'm taking the Steelers, and I don't even think it's a contest. I think the Steelers run roughshod over the Dolphins. They've looked good. They're still got a powerful big three of Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm not going to pick against them. Then you have the Lions visiting the Seahawks. I think the Lions are a tricky pick, but I think the Seahawks figure it out and take care of them at home. Going to be the only home game the Seahawks probably play this postseason. But I believe in the Seahawks still. They're still a very good team. Yes, they're kind of limped into the playoffs there towards the end a little bit, but it's still a dangerous team, still a very good defense. No Earl Thomas. It's going to hurt them, but I think they'll figure it out. They always seem to. No one thought they'd come back being down 20 against the Packers, but they pulled that off and then went on to play the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And then you have the last game of the first round, which is the Giants versus the Packers. As good as I think the Giants are, the Packers are too hot. Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is the MVP this year for what he did, running off, I think it was 6 wins in a row to get not only a playoff spot, but a home game playoff spot when it didn't look like they were going to. But I think they're a tricky team. Not tricky team. I think they're a very good team. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to hang with them. So I'm going with the Packers there. And if those are correct, then we're going to have the Raiders versus the 2-seed Chiefs, which there's some demons for you because the Raiders have got lost twice to the Chiefs this year. That's 2 of their 4 losses. It's not going to be easy, and I don't think the Raiders can do it, unfortunately. Not without Derek Carr. If they had Derek Carr, I think they had a shot. But no Derek Carr, I give them no chance. Maybe a fighter's chance, but I think the Chiefs take care of business and beat them and go to the AFC Championship game. And then on the other side of things, it will be the Steelers versus the Patriots. And that's going to be an interesting game. But the Steelers are going to Foxborough. And unfortunately for them, they don't have a great track record there. And I'm going to take the Patriots. I'm going to take Tommy Terrific T-Bone and his great year, even though they did go 3-1 in his 4-game suspension. But I'm going to take the Patriots there. And then in the NFC, you're going to have the Seahawks versus the Falcons. The two have already played this year, and due to a questionable call, Seahawks won. Whether you believe it was a PI or not, I think it's going to be a game, but it's going to be in the Dome. It's going to be at Atlanta. But I'm going to take the Seahawks, oddly enough. I think Seahawks experience. I think the Falcons have a lot of hype on their train, but I think the Seahawks find a way to win this game in the Dome. Don't ask me why. I still am a strong believer in those Seahawks, and I think they're going to pull it out. And then on the other side of that would be the Packers versus the Cowboys. Cowboys had a great season. 2 rookies leading the way on offense, that great offensive line. But I have some very good friends who are Cowboy fans who are going to be really mad at me. I'm not betting against the Packers. I think the Packers go in and beat them. They're playing in a dome. Aaron Rodgers is terrific in a dome. And I don't think the Cowboys have an experience there. I mean, they have 1 win in the playoffs in the last decade, maybe 2. It's just one of those things. Which brings down to the AFC and NFC championship games. They pan out like I'm guessing at the moment, but it's Patriots versus the Chiefs. I give the Chiefs a fighting chance, but honestly, I think it will be the Patriots returning to the playoffs once again. They have the home field throughout, and I think it's just too hard to beat them in Foxborough. And then the other side, we have the Seahawks versus the Packers at Seattle, because Seattle is a higher seed, but I'm taking the Packers. A good friend of mine, Emmy, believes it'll be Patriots-Packers, and I believe it'll be Patriots-Packers. I think those 2 teams will meet in the Super Bowl. And if I'm going to make my Super Bowl pick right now, which I will make my premature Super Bowl pick right now, I'm like I said just a few seconds ago, I can't bet against the Packers. I think the Packers will win it all. I think they'll win the Super Bowl, and Aaron Rodgers will get his 2nd ring, the ring that eluded Brett Favre. And he is on his way to being the best quarterback in Packers history. I think Aaron Rodgers should get the MVP, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to lead his team to his 2nd Super Bowl. And I think it will be a good game. Similar to the one that Brett Favre won against Drew Bledsoe, oddly enough, back in the day. And what's really funny about it being Favre and Bledsoe then, it's their replacements are going to be playing against each other now. So, plenty of storylines there. And of course, something's going to be brought up about the Patriots. I mean, that's almost guaranteed, right? But we're going to take a quick ad here, and when I come back, we'll talk some college football. Trenton here from Tea Time with Trenton, Eugene Sports Podcast. And if you need to get around town, Eugene Hybrid Taxi is the way to go. They have fast and friendly drivers as well as awesome owners. I would know. I'm one of their drivers. Call dispatch and make appointments for airport pickups or just, someplace to get around town, maybe go to a Duck game. And if you happen to get me as your driver, you tell me what time it is, I'll give you 10% off your next fare. Eugene Hybrid Taxi. Clean, friendly, and reliable. All right, on to the college football landscape. We had our bowl games, a few left. We have our college playoff. We had our first 2 rounds. And I have to say, I think the best 2 teams have actually shown themselves. And I believe that early in the year when I picked at the very beginning, it's Alabama and Clemson. They both handled their semifinal games with pretty good ease. And I think they're headed for a rematch, and I think it's going to be a great game. But if I'm to make a pick here, which I'm going to, I'm picking Alabama. Just because it's hard to pick against them. It really is. And as good as I think Deshaun Watson is, and as good as I think Clemson is, I think this Alabama defense is better than it was last year. And they couldn't beat them last year. I mean, this team is pretty impressive. Nick Saban has built a dynasty of dynasties in college football at what he's had at Alabama. And it's going to continue that way until proven otherwise. So I'm going to go with Bama there. But I'm going to bring up a few other topics in college football that kind of reared their heads. First off, Heisman voting. I don't understand why the bowls are included. If the bowl stats are included in your overall stats, then why can't you wait for the Heisman until the end of the year? Because I think if people saw what they saw of Louisville going down to LSU and Lamar Jackson kept out of the end zone, I think they would have looked a little bit differently at picking Lamar Jackson over Deshaun Watson because Watson killed Ohio State. I mean, it's kind of odd that they do any awards after that. I mean, in the NFL, MLB, NBA, it's based on the regular season, not what you do in the playoffs. So that makes sense that they do that beforehand. But college, it doesn't because everything counts. All your stats still count. So why is it picked beforehand? Maybe not in college basketball because there's a lot more to show. But college football especially, I mean, it should definitely have that extra game in there. And, people can make the argument, well, what if a really good player doesn't make a bowl game? Well, last time I checked, I think the worst team Heisman has ever come from only had 3 losses on the year, and that was RG3. So I don't think that's going to matter. I think all the real candidates will be in bowl games. But then going to another topic that has been brought up quite a bit lately was the whole prepare for the NFL draft, declaring for the NFL draft and not playing in your bowl game. Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffery are the 2 headliners for such, deciding not to play. Jabril Peppers didn't play either, but his was due to injury. Some believe it's not true. I don't see why he would lie about it, but because he hasn't even declared yet. But Leonard Fournette decided to forego the bowl game to get ready for the NFL draft, and it makes sense. I don't have an issue with these players doing this. I mean, if it was me, I would play. You do have an obligation to your coach. You do have an obligation to your team. But in the end, it's their decision. I don't think it's classless. I don't think it's selfish. It's the only time I might make that argument is if either A, they're in a big bowl, New Year's Six bowl. Say Leonard Fournette was in the Sugar Bowl, or say Christian McCaffrey in the Rose Bowl, I think they would play. But they weren't. And if they're in the national title playoff, I bet you they would have played. It's a lot different circumstances, not some small bowl like the Sun Bowl or the Citrus Bowl that really don't mean anything. And you can make the arguments however way you want, but in the end, it's their decision, and they're running backs, and both of them dealt with injuries all year long. And people say, I mean, McCaffrey had the blessing of his team and his coach, which means no one should have an issue with it. They're the only 2 parties that should have an issue with that. They don't owe the fans anything. I'm sorry, but college football fans, no player owes us anything. These players cycle out. They're here at most 5 years, including their red shirt, and only playing 4 years. This isn't like pro sports where you sign someone or you draft someone and they stay for a while. These are college players. McCaffery would only have been able to stay 1 more year anyways. Same with Leonard Fournette. It's their decision to go early. And you can be mad at them all you want, but they don't owe you anything. And to say coaches make their entire offensive game plan around these two players is a load of hogwash. The closest that they're going to have is they make their game plan around running the ball. And honestly, I don't think coaches have a right to truly be upset if a player does decide to go, because they can decide to up and leave for another job at any time they want. They don't have to ask permission. They don't have to get a blessing. Tom Herman left Houston before they did their bowl game. Same with Willie Taggert with USF before he came to Oregon. I mean, it's one of those things where you can't be mad at one and not the other. I mean, if you want to be mad at both, be mad at both. But you're gearing your anger towards a 20-year-old who has a chance to go to the NFL, and it's not like every player does it. It's a select few. It's the top tier, and it's millions of dollars. And can you blame them? I mean, you're talking about them risking their future. You see these players get hurt in big bowl games, just like Jacob Butts just did for Michigan, and now he's not going to be a first-round draft pick. He literally got cost millions of dollars. A bad example of this is Ifo Ekprealamu. When he was with Oregon, we're in the national title playoff, the first one, but he got hurt in a non-contact injury in practice. And some can look at that as, oh, that cost him money. Yeah, but he's also playing for a national title. And it did happen in practice. It didn't happen in the game. But the fact is, you can get hurt at any given time, including at the combine. So it's not like you're saving yourself from injury. But to get mad at young men for deciding to invest in their future and keep their health, I mean, especially at the running back position, you know, they don't last more than, 6 years at the running back position? I mean, Arian Foster was at the top of the world, 4 years ago, and now he's out of the league and retired. Like, you're a fan of the team, and you can be a fan of the players, but just because a player goes to a college and plays with them doesn't mean they owe the fans anything. He gave you an amazing season last year, and he gave you everything he had this year when he was on the field. He was hurt a lot this year. I believe he missed 5 games. And just to be mad at him for deciding to do what was best for him, especially in McCaffery's case, because he had the full blessing of his team, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I'm an Oregon fan. If we actually made a bowl this year and Royce Freeman decided not to play in the New Mexico Bowl for us to get ready for the draft, I wouldn't be mad at him. But, seriously, why would I be mad at him? And to go even farther, if you're mad at a player for not playing in the bowl game, then you should be mad at players who declare for drafts early when they don't use up all their eligibility. It's the same freaking thing. If you want to be mad at a guy for leaving early, then you need to be mad at every guy who leaves early. I mean, if they don't play their full 4 seasons, then if you're going to be mad that they don't play in 1 bowl game that doesn't mean anything, then you need to be mad that they didn't play the entire next season. And you know what? Some people might be. I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. We are sports fans. We're fans of teams. And especially in college, you can't just completely attach yourself to a player and take it personally. It's kind of the ridiculousness of being a fan. Now, and if once you're rooting for an NFL team, it's a little bit different, but people move on, people get traded. Just think it's the nature of the game. But in the end, you're rooting for a team, not one particular player. You're rooting for the team. You're not going, oh, I hope McCaffery gets 200 yards in this game. Who cares if we lose? That's not what you're thinking. You're thinking, let's win. So that's my take on a little bit of that. And then we have the ugly side sometimes of college football. Joe Mixon punched a girl pretty hard, and it was caught on tape, and he was suspended, and that was the reason why he was suspended for a year back in 2014. And he wasn't dismissed from the team. And I think there's a problem in sports in general for players getting second chances for certain things when they probably shouldn't. In Oklahoma, I think it's on them. Yes, Joe Mixon was young. Yes, he made a mistake. But you don't do that. You just don't. I mean, you don't touch a girl no matter what they do. Unless they pull a gun or knife on you or a weapon of physical harm, you have no reason to hit her or walk away, push her away at least. Like, do something. And you can sit there and tell me she probably deserved it. I don't care. No woman deserves that. No kid deserves that. And he doesn't deserve what she was doing either. I'm not letting her off the hook. But she sure as heck didn't deserve that response. And if you support that, then you're part of the problem. It never should be a case. And in case you're asking, no, I don't support that scumbag Josh Brown. No, I don't support Ray Rice. You know, you forgive and forget, whatever. Players are players. If you want to be a fan of Ray Rice as the player, then be a fan of Ray Rice as the player. But that doesn't mean you have to be a fan of him as a person. If Ray Rice was on my team, I'd be forced to root for him because I'm rooting for my team. I'm just glad he hasn't gone to my team. I hope Joe Mixon doesn't go to one of my teams. It's insane. It's dumb. And then the fact that Oklahoma saw the tape, knew what happened, and only suspended him for a year, you kick him off the team. That's not acceptable. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And them saying, "Oh, we thought he would transfer." That doesn't make it right for you to get away with only suspending for a year. You've played him the last 2 years. And you just played him in your big bowl game, which brings to my next problem. He had a huge game. Joe Mixon had a huge game. He declared for the draft, but he had a huge game, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. And after he scored a second touchdown, all of his teammates started fake punching him. You got to know that's probably not the best thing to do. It's know your surroundings, know your circumstances. It's not an okay thing. You shouldn't do that. I mean, whether it was playful, harmful, or even had anything to do with that, that's just not a smart move. It's just classless, and Oklahoma should have done something about it. I mean, they should have never done it. And to get it, kids will be kids, but at a certain point, you got to do something about it. It shouldn't be okay. It's no different than when Stevie Johnson of the Bills scored a touchdown against the Jets and pretended to shoot himself in the leg to make fun of Plexico Burress. I mean, that's obviously not nearly as bad, but it's still, I mean, it's not good context. Don't do it. It's just not a good look for you. And then Musburger, I'm not a big fan of him to begin with, but him to on air wish Joe Mixon the best of luck, and I didn't catch the rest of it, but I mean, you don't need to do it on air. You're there to do play-by-play, Brett. You're not there, or Brent, whatever the heck your name is. You're not there to actually wish someone luck and talk about him punching a girl and thinking it's okay. You kind of just do your job of play-by-play and do something in the confines of the game. But, it's his choice. It's whatever. But those are just some brief catch-ups there. We're going to do one more ad break, and then I'm going to finish up the first show of 2017 with talking about our local Ducks. Trenton here from Tea Time with Trenton, your Eugene Sports podcast, and I want to talk to you about a nice little store called Got Socks. They can fill all your sock needs. They have everything from sports socks, cool designs, as well as catchphrases and words like bacon. They have the right price and the right sock to fit your needs. They're located at the east entrance of the Valley River Center Mall, right across the way from the Oregon Ducks store and the food court. So if you got needs, they got socks. All right, to end our show, we're going to talk a little bit about our local Ducks. A lot of things have happened. A lot of stuff has come about. Some good, some bad, some indifferent. But definitely our Oregon Ducks football team. Let's actually start with the basketball team. Basketball team is definitely turned it around. They started off a little slow, but they just had back-to-back wins and beat undefeated UCLA and beat undefeated USC, and really thrown their weight around, showing that they're still the best team in the conference, and definitely looking to make a nice NCAA push. And then we go to football. We had a very poor finish to the year. Not a good year, not one to yearn for. We finished 4-8, which, definitely a down year, bad year, losing to both rivals, Washington and Oregon State. But, that happens. Not every team can stay on top. Not every team is going to be the winner every single year. Every game someone has to lose. Unless your name is Alabama, you're not going to be consistently on the top every single year. And that definitely showed this year with Oregon. And a lot of fans got restless. And Mark Helfrich ended up getting fired. Now, I'm not going to go into a huge detail, but I'm with Helfrich. I was not for him getting fired. I did believe this is just a blip in the system. If you really break down what happened this year, you sports minds can see, and you'd be able to see that really you can't. Getting rid of Helfrich wasn't the best idea. But I'm not going to sit here and talk your ear off and argue why. It's pointless. It's done and over with. I'm still a Ducks fan, and it's been decided to move on. Willie Taggert, a Jim Harbaugh disciple, USF coach, former Western Kentucky coach, built both those two group programs back up, had 2 bad years, and then had both successful years their third year. And I'm not going to say Taggert is the coach Oregon needed. I think Helfrich had it going the right direction. I think Helfrich still had a good handle on everything. I think Taggert's what the fans needed. The fans have turned into what we used to hate most. But, that's the sign of a perennial contender, a power school, is we act like Oklahoma, USC, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State. We act like those fans now, or big bull or nothing every single season, no matter what. And it's all to blame on the coach, and everything is going downhill, and it's just the way it is now. We're going to have fans that believe if we're not winning our conference every year, then it's not a good season unless we win our conference, which isn't the case. Any season where you win 10 games is a very good season, borderline great season. And any season that you win 8 games or more is a good season. And we're not going to always win the conference every year. We're not always going to have 10 wins. We're not always going to have 8 wins. This year proved that. But the bottom line, I understand why Helfrich was let go, whether I agree with it or not. These fans needed a youth jolt, and that's what happened. There's been a very big youth movement now at the university. I mean, a lot of young position coaches now. The very good D coordinator was hired in Jib Levitt. He's the highest paid coordinator in the Pac-12 now, which makes me wonder why Helfrich wasn't given that ability to pay a coordinator that much, but it does not matter. But we had to say goodbye to a long line of coaches that we had very, very good time. We will miss them. I will miss them. But it was time for a change, and the change has happened. And so far, Taggart's doing his part. He's kept players around. He's kept recruits who were looking at committing to Oregon and kept them to the ability to keep them to commit. He's had 3 commits so far since taking over. We have lost 7, and of those 7, I'm pretty sure 5 of them were probably 5 of our best recruits. One's looking like he's coming back. One, there's definitely no chance, and another signed elsewhere. I mean, it's just one of those things. But Taggart has been very aggressive recruiting. He might end up with a recruiting class better than what Helfrich had when he left, or what Helfrich would have finished with. Because some people don't realize Helfrich had a pretty good class shaking up until he was let go. But the 3 recruits that Taggart was able to get on board is Darian McNeil, a DeAnthony Thomas-esque prototype athlete, stolen from Arizona. A Jordan Scott, who is a 6'1", 360-pound D tackle, which we don't see that often, so that'll be nice. And then Thomas Graham Jr., a corner at a Rancho Cucamonga, teammate of Jalen Redd and current Duck commit, and good friends with the Big 5 from down there in Cali of Reme Johnson, the linebacker, Nick Pickett, the safety, Diamande Lenore, who was decommitted, but I think he is a real good shot at coming back, who's a corner, and then Thomas Graham Jr. is a corner, and Jalen Redd's an athlete, but he's trained with safety in high school. But a lot of offers were sent out by Taggart. I mean, he's really been aggressive. He's very active on Twitter. I mean, I like the energy Taggart brings. He comes from a good coaching tree. I like Jim Harbaugh. But, I mean, as much as it saddens me to see Helfrich go, it's exciting to see what Taggart's doing and what he can do, and I look forward to seeing how it continues to grow. He was able, Royce Freeman, Tyrell Crosby, and Darren Carrington, the big three that could have declared early that we thought would, they're all coming back. And then, of course, we have the returning All-American freshman Troy Dye at linebacker, the returning All-Pac-12 safety Brendan Schooler. I mean, there's a lot of good things going. A lot of good things coming back. A lot of good games rolling. Justin Herbert's going to be back. That offensive line has another year under their belt. We lose Cameron Hunt, but Crosby will slide right back in. They'll probably move Brady Aleo to guard or possibly to right tackle and move Calvin Thornton in at guard just for the year or permanently or whatever they decide to do. There's a lot of depth on this team, and the only way to look is up. But that's all I have for you for this first episode. I know it's a lot shorter than I normally do, but I mean, first one back, baby steps, I guess. But I look forward to a good 2017. I look forward to hearing from everybody again and seeing the action on Twitter and whatnot. I'll be a lot more active this year. So I'm signing off until that time.
What time is it?